Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cancer Tamer. I'm your host, Dr. Charley Ferrer.
Hi, I'm Debra Santulli, Barone.
And by the way, we're feeling very much like Stephen Colbert with the information that or the technical difficulties that we go through because we're filming from home instead of the studio. So you can see some of our backgrounds that aren't so great. We're trying to figure out something to do with them. And we're recording in the dark for me. And Deborah's got all the light. So please bear with us as we go through some of this. And thanks a lot for everybody at CTV who's helping us make sure that we can continue to bring the show to you while we're going through the COVID issues.
Yes, thank you, CTV.
So this show is going to be about some of the things that we thought that you should know. And Debra found some great information, and I'll let her share that with you.
Okay. I bet nobody has ever heard of a liquid biopsy. Now, wouldn't that be great that you can get a liquid biopsy instead of being probed and cut open and stitches or whatnot? I think that's a great idea because sometimes you need more than one biopsy through your lifetime with breast cancer or any kind of cancer. So researchers came up with this idea of the liquid biopsy. It's a blood test. And since cancer cells shed and little fragments of your DNA go through your body, and it circulates in the body and the tumor of the DNA. So that's why they call it a ctDNA liquid biopsy. And so they're exploring how this can help. And what it does is it helps with your planned treatment because since your tumors can change genetically, the blood you collect over time can help the doctors decide, all right, now we need to change your treatment. So that's a good idea. And it also monitors, what's going on in your body, the tumors that change over time. And besides that, it could detect new cancers. So all of it is all good. We read this article through Mayo Clinic, and we're hoping that you will ask your doctors about it. And it might actually help with advanced cancers too. So
right, and this is one of those things where they are using the blood biopsy for diagnostic purposes.
Right.
And they were also using as well, weren't they, of doing some thermography alongside with this? If I had read that information correctly, we're trying to get the I don't want to say inventor, but the person that's spearheading this out of Washington Medical and having them come on the show so they can give you more information about it. But again, it is one of those pieces of if you don't want to go through the typical biopsy that you do now, either the ultrasound or the MRI guided biopsy, these are alternatives that you could speak with your doctor about whether or not you can have it done.
Right.
And as far as insurance is concerned, every insurance is different. So it might be something that you would have to then research for your physician. Because one of the things that we've learned is, lots of physician offices are very complacent and they won't go out looking for the research when they have so many other things to do. So it will be up to you to then turn around and look up whether or not, your insurance company will handle it. And if they do handle it, one of the things that I would highly recommend is get them to send you a letter that says that they will cover this treatment for you. So that when you go to your doctor and the first thing they'll say is, oh, well, your insurance isn't going to cover it, you can pull that letter out and say, look, here's the letter. They said yes. Let's move forward. And also
that's very smart. Yes.
Yeah. And also the fact that your doctor may not be qualified to do it, or the hospital that you're at may not do it. And so looking for what organization or what medical organization is doing it, that you can get the test there and then bring those results to your doctor.
And don't forget on the website, we've listed places sometimes for funding for different things. All you could do is try and reach out. to all these organizations and see if your coverage doesn't cover it. Maybe you can get some kind of grant or funding for it.
Right. And we did have one individual that got her chemo covered by a grant for $40,000. So
Wow.
look into these programs. You never know. And if you're not sure what programs to go looking at, look on our website. We had a whole bunch, like Debra mentioned, but also connect with the social worker that's working with oncology. Because a lot of the times we don't know that they're there because they don't really advertise it.
Yeah, they don't tell you.
Each department has a social worker or their nurse navigator who can then turn around and tell you what organizations you can connect with. And also become very proficient at looking online. Grants for cancer, grants for your particular cancer. So whether you have breast cancer, thyroid cancer, lung cancer, whatever kind of cancer, look and see what grants and what organizations are available, and then just start calling them. Or if you have your support team, your advocacy team working with you, then contact them or tell them to do it for you on your behalf.
Okay.
And they can always call and make the initial call for you and get information for you. Mm-hmm. So on the side of that is also one of the other tests that we have been talking about is the TA 125 test.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Make sure I have that correctly.
Yes. CA 125 is a blood test.
And that blood test is usually used more for women with ovarian cancer to check the levels of antigens that are in their body. And even though you may not have ovarian cancer, if they are watching you for it, if you have breast cancer, you can ask your doctor to perform this test. And you have to be a little bit assertive.
Yes, definitely.
Not aggressive, but assertive, sometimes with your physicians to get them to actually do the test. Because I remember they kept arguing with me that they weren't going to do it. And I'm like, look, I got this mutation. You go and look at it.
Right. That's true.
So, and it took quite a bit of me saying, I'm not leaving until you do this test. You know, you're already taking blood for everything else. Do this one as well. Right. So looking into it, trying to be a little, be your own best advocate and double check. Again, it's more to monitor whether or not there's levels of cancer from ovarian cancer, and it also can give more information, especially if you're at risk or if you've got the BRCA gene. Because remember, we don't necessarily need to have the BRCA1 or 2 gene in order to have breast cancer.
Right, that's true. But you could be higher risk if you're BRCA positive. But besides ovarian cancer, it shows for endometrial, fallopian tube cancers, and early detection of ovarian cancer. So that's good to know.
Yeah. And if you're curious about ovarian cancer or you have been diagnosed with it, there's a wonderful organization out there called TEAL, TEAL. They're out of Brooklyn. They're wonderful ladies that run it. And they have tons of information about ovarian cancer. And they also do workshops and so on. I think they're doing workshops online as well for those of you that are immune compromised or haven't gotten your COVID shot.
Right.
So different things to consider. And, we talk a lot about cancer or breast cancer here on this show because that's something that we're very familiar with, to both Debra and myself. But this show is also about any kind of cancer or any kind of chronic illness where it's specific towards cancer, where we're always talking about living with and things to do.
Right, that's true. And another thing with the test, I got my test from my gynecologist. So it depends. It could be a gynecologist, it could be a breast doctor, but do ask, does it help people ask me, does it help to prolong your life or whatever? It's just going to detect certain things. What happens after that depends on everybody's differently, whatever, but it's better to find something out sooner than later, because you definitely have a chance when it's sooner, like any cancer, really, you know. So that's important. And also they say pelvic and transvaginal sonograms can also detect certain things. So that's important to ask your doctor.
Right. And believe it or not, one of the things that I found with endometriosis is your diet is very important as to being able to control and get rid of, believe it or not. You know, and I'm talking from more of a personal perspective. Juicing is high on the list of being able to help you with symptoms, even if it's just to give you more energy. Great book, Chris Carr, Crazy Sexy Juice. Awesome book. It has a lot of recipes on juicing, on doing smoothies that you can create your own. And with our book, Breast Cancer from Diagnosis to Surgery, also has a lot of recipes in it for juicing and other dietary, I hate dietary, but other ways of cooking and doing things that are healthier for you.
Right. And speaking of cooking or foods, if you're interested in plant-based nutrition, send us an email. I have a certificate in that, and it's pretty easy to follow. And I can also give you the websites to look for different recipes, because that's the newest thing too. Plant protein isn't as healthy as plant-based protein. So that's important for you to know. Make some nights, meatless nights. Have your beans and your vegetables. If you're going to have rice, try to have brown rice instead of white rice. Rinse all your rice anyhow, whether it's white, red, green, and there's actually a black rice too, because there's residues of arsenic sometimes on them. I've heard even sometimes with organic. So rinse your rice first before you cook it. That's important, and better to have a darker rice than a white rice.
Right. And it is the piece of eating healthier. You know, a lot of people say, oh, buy organic. Well, organic is expensive.
Yes.
But notice what products you're using and what's in those products. So read those labels. Spend time in the groceries. You know, in the grocery store. I know people hate going with me to the grocery store because I stop and I read everything. And they say, oh, well, you've been eating that forever. I'm like, yeah, I know. So now I'm looking at the labels to make sure. And then I make a decision whether or not it's a healthy choice. Okay, then.
Okay. So our next subject is medical menopause. And you might be saying, what the heck is that? Well, you know, it's basically, if you're young and you've had a different cancer, whether it's breast cancer, ovarian, whatever, and you might want the treatment and accept the treatment of chemo and other factors, estrogen blockers, whatever, even tamoxifen. So you can go through early menopause, which would mean night sweats, mood swings, low libido, vaginal dryness, painful intercourse, weight gain, all the things that you would get if you were going through menopause. Now you might be going through it earlier. It's also important that maybe you'd like to freeze your eggs. So there are organizations that can help you pay for that because it's expensive. And the same thing for men, to freeze your sperm if you're going through different treatments. And so, you know, and it's scary, and there's bone loss too. So you have to be cognitive of what to eat, to exercise. You can also get brain fog from it. So these other factors of exercise and eating better would help you.
Right. And it is realizing that your body is going through changes, especially if you're on medication, if you're getting chemo, radiation, if you're on and it's cute because if you're on the pill, you know, and now there's a different kind of pill, you know, if you're getting not levothyroxine, but Aromadex or things like that, where you're getting cancer meds, realizing that those are little bits of chemo in them. And so this will affect your your life in different ways, and your medical progress in different ways in your body. So being prepared for that, being able to determine what you're going to do about it. So, Debra talked about libido. So how will you address your libido? How will you affect, how will it affect your sex drive? And talking to your partner, because most of the times we think only about ourselves as far as, well, it doesn't affect me, or I'm not going to have sex, I don't care. But if you're in a relationship, how does your partner feel about that? And realizing that intimacy is not the same as sex. There's two different, one is physical, one is emotional. Intimacy is your emotional connection. And so whether or not you can be physically sexual, you can be emotionally sensual. And talking to your partner about what that means for you, for them. Also, if you've had, a mastectomy, then being comfortable with your body now, because it's different. Whether you had, a mastectomy or a lumpectomy, there's a change in your body. And how comfortable do you feel with your body now? And how comfortable do you feel about your partner seeing your body? And this is true for whether you have a male partner or a female partner. It is the same. Because we all feel differently about our bodies. And when something changes, it changes our whole connection to ourselves and our bodies. And so being able to notice that. And if you need help, again, contact the therapist, contact your social worker, contact your nurse navigator, contact us. We do therapy here as well. And so being able to discuss those topics are really helpful for you.
Definitely. Well, there's a great department at Sloan Kettering. It's a women's center, and they address those things, the vaginal dryness and what you can do about it. So I thought that they were really good. I'm sure a lot of facilities must have that. So that's important to discuss, definitely. And when you talked about, your breast and lumpectomies, that goes on to another subject of, how do you define beauty? Which I found a great story in, I think it was Cure magazine, where a husband contacted a local photographer. And he said, my wife had a mastectomy. She decided she didn't want implants, because so many people are going through this where they get infected and they have to take them out anyhow. But she felt very self-conscious. And he said to this photographer, can you do a photo shoot of my wife and maybe make her feel better? So this photographer decided, okay, let me try this. Her name's Charisse Isis. And the woman really felt good. She had her dressed up in scarves and hats and whatnot. And when she saw the pictures later on, and her husband saw me, thought it was a great idea. So she decided, the photographer, to go around the country. So she's hit 27 states already. She's photographed, she photographed 500 people already, and making a book about it. And I did reach out and left a message hoping that I'd hear from her so that maybe we can have her on one day, but I guess she didn't get the message yet. But it's a great idea. And it leads you back also to, okay, it's your decision. Don't let anyone tell you, do not have implants because you're worried, oh, gee, you're not going to please your husband or your boyfriend or your lover or your significant other. It's a very personal decision. And if you opt not to have the implants, that's fine too. Like I said, lately, I know 2 people personally that after 3 years had to get them taken out. And let me tell you, it hurts to take them out, I'm sure. So think about that.
And it is that personal choice. Also, the beauty of it is you don't have to wait for that person to come and take your picture. You can take your picture on your own. You can set up a camera for yourself, get your partner. This is a wonderful bonding exercise, actually.
Oh, that's
you
good.
And your partner to be able to get comfortable with your body again. Because even though it might be that you're feeling self-conscious about the way that your body looks now, your partner may be feeling subconscious about how they're reacting to you. They have to get, comfortable with how you look as well, because a lot of the times we have all these scars. And I know for me, having my partner hurt in any way, having my child hurt in any way. I mean, it drove me nuts. I was just like, oh my God, you can't be sick. You can't, And so because I love them so much, I didn't want them to have anything wrong with them. And so realizing that it may not be a discomfort that there's anything wrong with you. It may be that they're scared because here's this this flash in their face of, oh my God, my partner has cancer, because they're seeing the scar. And so that can be a fearful aspect, that every time they see this scar, they get scared about whether or not you're going to be there for them, whether or not they're going to lose you, whether or not they're doing the right thing, whether or not, excuse me, whether or not they can do anything at all. So realizing that it might be fear that they have. And so again, this is a wonderful way to bond with your partner once again.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea. Yeah, because like you're saying, it's not really about the scar. It could be about fear that they don't want to lose you, because it's a reality when you look at the scar. Oh my God, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, and even for yourself. Because I remember, and we're almost to our time, but I remember when I first had my surgery, and I had to bring my own mirror into the doctor's office because they didn't have any mirrors in the office so that I could look at the damage that had been done. And when I asked, like, okay, well, where's the mirror so that I can see my breasts? He said, oh, well, we never have that because nobody wants to look at their breasts.
Really?
Well, I do. I want to see what you did to me. And I remember where I would stand in front of the mirror, and I still do. And I look at my scars and I'm like, oh my God, what did they do to me?
Oh boy.
Because there's, I have a lot of scarring. And so realizing that for you too, it goes back to getting comfortable with your body. We were already taught not to look at our bodies, not to touch our bodies. And we have all these hangups about our bodies. And now we had trauma to the body. And now we're trying to figure out, well, what do my breasts look like? What does my stomach look like? If you had ovarian cancer, are you still a woman because don't have your ovaries anymore? Are you still a woman because you don't have your breast anymore? And talking to yourself, talking to a therapist, doing journaling about these issues is very important to help you through them.
Well, I think I talk about my cancer a lot, and some people say, why do you do that? Like, they feel uncomfortable and they don't understand why I want to put it out there. But I always feel like it's a presence in my head. I push it out there so that maybe also other people can feel comfortable to talk about it, and it just keeps me in reality.
Yeah. And it's that piece of, and I love watching old movies because you could see all the things that people used to do. And remember, nobody talked about cancer. And if they did, it was hush hush. She has cancer. Because it's like, well, what is that? It's filthy or dirty or guilt ridden or whatever. And so you need to address those aspects of yourself, of your own feelings, because that also helps you get better. Because you're not holding all of that in. Because part of having cancer or part of living your life despite the cancer is coming to terms with it.
Yes.
Your body didn't betray you. It's not a hereditary thing. I hate when people say, oh, well, it's hereditary. I don't buy the hereditary. I buy that it's environmental, but it's being able to then come to terms with it and saying, you know what, I have it. Now, what am I going to do with my life?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want out of my life? Because staying stuck in this piece is not going to help you move forward.
Right. You can't change what has happened. You can only try to live your life the best that you could.
And I think that's the one beautiful thing about cancer is that it is that wake-up call. What are you going to do with your life?
Right.
Are you going to live it, or are you going to mope about it? Are you going to stay in the part of, oh my gosh, I'm going to die? Well, here's a big a big FYI. All of us do. So everybody is. So what are you going to do with the life? Because not everybody lives life. And what I mean by that is sometimes we get stuck in our little routines and we don't move forward. We don't do anything with it. We don't appreciate what we have in front of us. And here's a wonderful wake-up call to say, hey, what do you want to do with your life? What are you going to do with it? How are you going to bring your partner into it? How are you going to bring your kids into it? What new friendships do you want to create? So these are all aspects of healing as well. And as you heal your mind, you also heal your body.
Right.
So things to consider. I want to be able to remind people, because we're almost through with this show and we got in trouble for going too long or too short. But if you want to get in touch with us or you have ideas for the show, please contact us at info@cancertamer.org. That's Cancer Tamer with a T, TAMER.org, O-R-G. You can always call us as well, 718-916-4124. And we will continue to bring you information as we learn it. And if there's anything that you want us to talk about or address or discuss, please give us a call. And we'll be sure to do that. We're also going to be starting a brand new podcasting Zoom radio show called Breast Cancer Radio. That's coming up we're hoping April now, because we had to do a whole bunch of different technical issues that we're doing, but we're putting it together. So we are looking for people to be on the show with us if they want to talk about their issues or they have questions or they just need to talk to someone. We'll be here to do that.
Well, I would like the community of LGBTQIA plus to contact us so that we can do some shows and discuss all the walls you hit sometimes trying to get services and whatnot. And you can also enlighten us and educate us so that we can educate the community.
Right. And also for men, because we're trying to make sure that individuals realize that men also get breast cancer.
Yes.
There is a organization. That's our little. Sorry about that. Our
Timer.
But there is also an organization called Male Breast Cancer Coalition. You can look it up online, that they do a lot of work with men with breast cancer and being able to connect with them. Peggy Miller is one of the founders of that, her and her son, and Cherise as well, who got together and stated, we need to do something for the men in our lives who have breast cancer. Because if you have breasts, you can have breast cancer.
That's right. So men, when you're in the shower, please touch your chest and make sure you're okay. And if not, you go to the doctor. If he thinks you're crazy, then change doctors.
Yeah. Always advocate for yourself. And, one of the things that we talk about here is that doctors are like shoes. You find the right pair. And if the doctor that you have is not the right pair, just like any shoe, get rid of that one and get a new one. And find the one that fits. Same thing with a therapist. Find the one that fits. So want to say thank you so much for listening to our show today. We'll continue to touch topics as we discover them and as you request them for us. And thank you so much.